So hello guys, my name is Nilesh Phapale and I would like to tell you about a topic about the nuclear power plant. So let's go. So here is the table of contents, the topics that we are going to know. First is the what is a nuclear power plant. Then it is construction of a nuclear power plant. Then there are the components of a nuclear power plant. Then there is the working of a nuclear power plant, advantages of a nuclear power plant, disadvantages of a nuclear power plant, and then there are some facts and statistics. Let's look at what is a nuclear power plant. A nuclear power plant is an industrial site that generates electricity from nuclear power, released in the form of thermal energy through a nuclear fission, a chain reaction inside the vessel of a nuclear reactor. This is an example of a nuclear power plant. This is a Leningrad nuclear power plant in Russia. So let's move to construction of a nuclear plant, how a nuclear power plant is constructed. So this is an image representing the construction of a nuclear plant. Here you can see various components inside a nuclear power plant. And so our next topic is the components of a nuclear power plant. And if you look at the first component, is the pressurizer. Then there is a reactor vessel. Then there is the fuel. Generally, the fuel is uranium. Then there are vapor generator where the vapors are generated. Containment area, control rods. Then there are this turbine, transformer, alternator, a cooling water, condenser, and the cooling tower. Let's move to the next topic point, which is the working of a power plant, how a nuclear power plant works. So the way a nuclear power plant works can be simplified into five stages. First, if the uranium fission takes place inside a nuclear reactor, it releases a large amount of energy that heats the coolant water circulating at a very high pressure. This water is transported via the primary circuit to a heat exchange, which is a steam generator that produces water steam. Secondly, this steam is transported to the generator turbine set via a secondary circuit. Uh, once there, once there, the vanes in the turbine move, the alternator and the mechanical alternator converts the mechanical energy into electricity. When the water stream goes to the turbine, it is sent to a condenser to cool off and become liquid water again. And then finally the water is then transported to the new steam generator to become steam again inside a closed circuit. Then we are going to look at the advantages of a nuclear power plant. So the first is a low carbon energy source. The nuclear power plant emits it is a low carbon energy source. That means it doesn't emit that amount of carbon compared to others. It is a reliable and cost effective energy source. High power output, it has a high power output. Then small land footprints and consistent source of energy. And there are some disadvantages of a nuclear power plant. Let's look at them. So first is expensive to construct. It is quite expensive to construct a nuclear power plant. It generates a ton of radioactive waste, which is really harmful for our environment. Restricted fuel supply, because obviously the nuclear fuel is kind of restricted. Impact on the environment, it doesn't have a really good impact on the environment. The fuel is non-renewable and you cannot use the fuel again. And the malfunctions can be catastrophic. So let's look at some malfunction examples. So these are some major nuclear accidents timeline. So you can see that 1957 in UK, 1900 in USA, 1986 in Ukraine, and 2011 in Japan. There are some major nuclear accident timeline. Let's look at some nuclear power plants around the world. So here is a map about the nuclear power plants all over the world. You can see that United States of America has highest number of nuclear power plants, just 58. Then there is France, Japan, China, Russia, and India is it at sixth place with 9 nuclear power plants. Some facts about nuclear power plants. So here is that in 2019 in USA about this amount of energy was being generated by nuclear power plant. Some stats if you look at the 10% of the world's electricity is generated from around 440 reactors. There are 440 reactors in the world. Then nuclear is the world's second largest source of low carbon power. 28% of total in 2019. The first commercial nuclear power station started operation in 1950. So first nuclear power plant started in 1950. Let's look at some statistics. So here is a nuclear production graph. Nuclear electricity production, how much electricity is produced per year. This is the world electricity production in 2019. You can see that nuclear is 10.3% of the total, fourth highest and second highest in terms of the low carbon emission. Here is the nuclear generation by countries in 2020. So USA produced the most number of electricity with the nuclear power plants. And finally, I would like to tell you a quote of Bill Gates, which is nuclear is ideal for dealing with climate change because it is the only carbon-free scalable energy source that is available 24 hours a day. The problem with today's reactors is that the risk of accident can be solved through innovation. And thank you. If you have any queries, you can contact to this email. And here are the resources.